Sri Lanka. Welcome back to the show. You're here with me, Amaya. Now I'm here to speak to you about a very special event that's happening in conjunction with the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that's happening this weekend in Sri Lanka, and that is the Commonwealth Festival Orchestra Concert, which is going to be happening on the 15th of November at the Nelumpokuna Mahinda Rajapaksa Theatre in Colombo. And you just heard a student called Oren Ronald, who performed to you on the Kohan, if I'm not mistaken.
Quite right.
All right, then I got the name right. And he's just one student who'll be performing at this particular concert. He's from the Purcell School of Music in London, and I have with me now three individuals who have spearheaded this entire concert that's happening here on the 15th, and I'll introduce you to them right now. We have with us Dr. James Ross, who is a British conductor as well as an author, and he'll be the guest conductor at the Commonwealth Festival Orchestra Concert.
Good morning.
Good morning, James. Ivon. Welcome to the show. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show. And we also have with us Sarah Noon and Nicholas Oliver, who are co-directors of Commonwealth Resound.
That's right.
And all three of you are here to work on this very special project. So welcome to the show.
Thank
you very much,
Great
Maya.
to be here.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here as well. Now, all right, let's speak about this project that you're working on, Dr. James. Now, you've been here in Sri Lanka for 13 years, and you've been a guest conductor with the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka, which you're collaborating with on this event as well. So let's speak about what this event is.
Well, ever since I first worked in Sri Lanka 13 years ago, I've been visiting regularly ever since, and I've dreamed of bringing musicians from the UK and other countries to share their expertise and love of music with the musicians of the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka and others throughout the island. And so this is something of a dream come true for me.
And a dream you've had for a long time, if
Precisely.
I'm not mistaken. So that's great that we've been able to keep it in conjunction with the Heads of Government meeting that's happening. But I have to ask you, is there a connection between the Commonwealth organization as well as Commonwealth Resounds, or you just happen to have it at the same time as the CHOGA meeting?
Well, the CHOGA meeting's been an enormous opportunity for us to help realise this project, and a major component of this has been the British organisation, the Commonwealth Resounds, which is led jointly from the Purcell School of Music in London and Chetham's School of Music in Manchester.
And
Absolutely.
Sarah and Nick, you are part of the Cheetham School
We
in
are, absolutely,
Manchester, but also you're here today as the co-directors of Commonwealth Resounds as well. So tell us about this organisation. What do you do?
Well, the Commonwealth Resounds was founded in 2005 by a lady called Alison Cox, who is here in Sri Lanka with us now. She's head of composition at the Purcell School. She had a student in 2005 who was from Malta, and that young lady was going back to Malta to take part in some music that was organised for the CHOGM gathering in Malta. And that gave Alison the idea to try to bring together musicians from her school initially, followed later on by musicians from our school and elsewhere, to collaborate with musicians from the Commonwealth. And just as James said, with the this opportunity with the Symphony Orchestra, Commonwealth Resounds is not directly connected to the Commonwealth organisations at all, but it provides us with a fantastic opportunity and a window in which we can work with musicians in the country where the CHOGM is taking place, and at the same time. And we've done that every 2 years since 2005 in Uganda and in Trinidad and in Australia, and now here we are in Sri Lanka.
All right, so I've heard that this is the first time that both of you have come down to the island.
It is the first time for us in Sri Lanka, and we absolutely love it. It's a wonderful country.
Sarah, what is the Commonwealth Festival Orchestra?
The Commonwealth Festival Orchestra is something that is a collaboration between our young people from the schools in the UK with musicians throughout the Commonwealth. And I think it first happened out in Malta and then in Uganda in the very first Commonwealth Resounds incarnations. But most recently, and the most extensive project of this type we've ever done, is the collaboration with the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka and James, where we've come together, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, James, but it's the largest orchestra that will ever have been seen on the stage in Sri Lanka. So it's very exciting for us.
85 musicians taking part, so it's almost doubling the normal size of Symphony Orchestra, and it's perhaps the largest gathering of musicians in Sri Lanka ever in the island's history, or at least certainly in the last few decades.
So then the CHOGM meeting has really provided a platform for some other great things to happen here in the island as well. But let's speak about the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka. Now, you've worked with them for the past 13 years. What do you find unique about the island's orchestra as opposed to any other experiences you've had around the world?
The Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka is probably the world's most physically isolated orchestra in distance from any other. To find an orchestra of comparable size and degree of efficient organisation, you would need to go to Singapore or to Perth in Western Australia or to the Gulf. And what is really special about it is that, unlike many of the very fine orchestras in Asia, this is a homegrown Sri Lankan orchestra. 95% of the musicians who play in Symphony Orchestra Sri Lanka are born and raised in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
It's an incredible achievement to run an orchestra like this, and those in charge of the orchestra, the players committee, the management, work incredibly hard to keep maintaining it and to develop its standard in really sometimes quite tough circumstances.
We've been struck so powerfully by the dedication that there is amongst the Sri Lankan players in the orchestra and its administration as well. A real absolute passion for what they do and a determination to achieve really fantastic things in whatever circumstances.
Absolutely, our first rehearsal with them yesterday, and it was just great for our young people to be part of
We've designed it largely led by James, but we've designed it so that each one of the students who are here from the UK is sharing a musical desk and a part with one of the Sri Lankan Symphony Orchestra players, so it's providing a wonderful kind of learning opportunity for both parties, if you like, in each individual section of the orchestra, and they are loving it.
It's a brilliant cultural exchange to put people.
That's true, and that's the great thing about an event of this nature, isn't it? I mean, it's not just the music that the audience is going to hear at the concert for one day, which is on the 15th of November, which will be amazing as well, I'm sure. But more than that, it's about the cultural integration that can happen.
Absolutely, and it's about lasting human contact. That we started, this is a project we've all been working on for well over a year, and last September 2012 I brought out, with the support of the Symphony Orchestra and with Chetham's and Purcell School, brought out 4 members of the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka for a 2-week study tour of the UK, where I took them round some of the UK's top professional orchestras to give them an insight into professional life of musicians in Britain, and also to music education at the Purcell and at Chetham's and at the Northern College of Music in Manchester. And I should say, because Nick and Sarah won't say this, but I will slightly embarrass them by probably
Go ahead,
should
James.
tell you and your audience that the Purcell School and Chetham's are not only Britain's two top specialist music schools, they're two of the world's leading establishments for training young musicians. And the education that young musicians get there is incredibly special. As well as getting an excellent all-round education, they receive the sort of musical training which enables them to excel at a level perhaps that Sri Lankans will be familiar with only with their cricketers.
I see. So,
it's that level of seriousness with which it's taken.
All right. So do you find that that level of commitment and expertise can be honed here in Sri Lanka as well, now that they've had a taste of what it could be?
Without question. Absolutely without question. I mean, all you need to get on the sort of starting blocks of that kind of thing really is enthusiasm, the commitment, the organisation to be able to sort of, put the nuts and bolts of putting any one project or concert or whatever it is together. But excuse me. But in terms of in terms of instrumental skill and in terms of commitment and passion for it, absolutely,
it's absolutely there. I think the vision for it as well. Once you talk to people who've experienced that kind of specialist training, when our young people were talking to the players in the symphony orchestra last night, there were so many questions and exchanges, and I think just once you see that vision of what you could possibly achieve, what else is out there, perhaps that's really important.
Our students are they are already been telling us already that how fascinated they are by meeting and talking to the Sri Lankan players, and they meet some who are self-taught on their instruments, who are playing to a superb standard, which
really,
for our
really
people
impressive.
is like astonishing to hear, because of, as James mentioned, the level of professional tuition that's available to them in our schools. But it's a wonderful mix. We've only been doing it for a day.
What's the degree of difficulty of the pieces that the audience will be hearing on the 15th at the concert?
I say unprecedentedly difficult for works played by Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka, and this has been an amazing opportunity for the Symphony Orchestra to play works that are, in any other circumstances, far too large scale for them to contemplate doing.
I see.
But what I was so thrilled with last Wednesday when I started rehearsing the Symphony Orchestra by themselves was the amount of effort and practice that had already gone in. Several rehearsals had already been done by my Sri Lankan conductor colleagues before I arrived to prepare the orchestra, and it was a joy to hear music like, for example, Holst's Mars and Jupiter from the Planets, which requires this sort of monster orchestra to do it properly, and could not be played normally by symphony orchestra in its current size. To hear this come to life in Sri Lanka, and this is a work that the players themselves have been telling me for years, we want to play this, and I've said to them, if you want to do this, we've got to do something very special to make this happen.
And you are doing something very special, but I've also heard that some soloists are coming down as well, some very talented ones from around the world.
It's very good to mention those straight away. We're very honoured to have with us 3 musicians, in fact, from the Royal Overseas League, based in London, but a worldwide musical and artistic cultural organisation. They act in many ways for our youngsters from the Purcell School and Cheetham School as the next level in terms of experience and professionalism and concert giving experience that our students are aspiring to. So it's a wonderful educational window for our students as well.
And all 3 of them are great role models.
All 3 of them are fantastic role models. They're wonderful people and superb players. And